Ice safety. All right. So today at about 3:30, we received a 911 call from our dispatch center in reference to 3 men who were in the water. Our officers received that call and very quickly responded to the scene. As our officers were arriving, they did very quickly realize that there were 3 people in the water. Our 2 officers, one of them is a field training officer, the other officer is actually a rookie who's only on his 14th day here with Prince George's County Police. They both responded. They drive the car down closer to the water. They both very quickly removed their police equipment belts and went down to the water to attempt to rescue these 3 individuals who were in the water. You can see once they were there, they both went out onto the ice. Unfortunately, our officer did end up going through the ice and went into the water. He was in the water for a brief period of time. Thankfully, he was actually able to rescue one of the victims as he was removing himself from the water, and then our good friends at the fire department ultimately responded as well, and they assisted us to help get the other victims out of the water, and our officer along with the victims were taken to the hospital here for treatment for checkup to make sure they were okay in reference to hypothermia related injuries. Thankfully, they did not receive any major injuries, and we're very thankful for that and for our officers' quick thinking to make sure that everybody make sure this incident didn't turn into a more tragic situation.
Can you talk about ice safety and all that?
Sure. So in this area, we do have bodies, lakes, ponds, things like that. Even if they appear to be frozen, it's just ice has to be very thick in order to walk on it safely. So we definitely don't recommend under any situation that anyone walk on ice. Ice rinks are somewhere where you know that it's safe, but anywhere where the ice, it could be thick in one spot, you take one step and end up going under. And even on a day like today where it was a little bit warmer air temperature, the water's still very cold, and you can end up in a bad situation very quickly if you're by yourself or don't have someone to help you.
Where to start? You just got out of the hospital. How are you feeling now, and what were you treated for?
I'm good. Spirits are high. Just glad everybody's okay and everything. They treated me for water immersion for hypothermia.
Mm-hmm. Any lasting impacts, or are you good to go now?
Good to go. Yep.
Back to work tomorrow?
Yep. I'll go back to work Thursday.
Back to work on Thursday.
So I got a few days off.
That's good. Your supervisor took us through what happened as you guys pulled up to that scene, but just from your perspective, after you arrived and you saw those men struggling in the water, what was going through your mind?
As soon as we rolled up, we hit jumped over the curb and tried to get as close to the water as possible. My first thing was jump out and get to them and see, how long they were in the water, how many people in the water, who kind of get the who, what, when, where, why. And my first thing was to get them out as fast as possible.
As you saw them, what were they saying, or what were their expressions?
They were frantic. They were screaming. They were, exhausted. They said they had been in the water for a good bit of time, so I can only imagine, just being scared and not knowing if they were going to drown or not.
What was it that made you kind of click and say, I gotta go on the ice and get these guys?
It was just kind of like basic instinct. I don't know. I saw one of the men who was in the middle, and he was bobbing up and down, up and down. The other 2 kind of seemed to have like a grasp of the ice, and the one guy I could tell he was fading fast. So my first instinct was rip my gun belt off with my FTO and jump in there and try and get him as fast as possible, because I didn't want him drowning.
And this is like your 14th day on the job?
Yes.
2 weeks?
Yeah, I've been on the job for less than a month, about 2 weeks.
When the ice broke underneath of you, were you recognizing this is obviously a risk, or was it a big shock when that happened?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, that was a huge shock to me. Hitting the water and then actually having that cold really takes your breath away. So, but I had to basically just reassess myself, get myself out so I could help them out, because I didn't want to become a victim as well. I'm not useful then.
Do you know about how long you were in the water?
Probably 5 minutes, if that.
I understand the fire department pulled you out.
What's that?
The fire department pulled you out also?
No, I pulled myself out. I actually was able to pull myself out, spin myself around, keep hold of one of the victims from going and submerging underwater, and while advising the other two to try and do as I did. And then Fireboard ended up coming.
So you were right there with them? I guess in the video it didn't look like you were that
Yeah,
close.
I was face to face with all three of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
For about
I
5
was,
minutes.
I was basically as close as I am to you right now.
Do they say what they were doing on the ice?
No, they were too frantic to
Oh.
really state what was going on. They were more worried about obviously trying to get out.
Huh.
I mean, everything you do, I guess, in this job is a learning experience. 14 days in, fair to
Yeah.
say you got your feet wet.
Yeah.
Jokes. Oh,
That
jeez.
was a good one.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what-
but I mean, there's a point to it, though. I mean, you know, it's only January.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be cold again in February, and this is something that you can have under your belt. A lot of guys can't say they've fallen through the ice before.
Yeah, no, it was
mean-
definitely a huge learning experience. I learned a lot just from going through the whole thing, and luckily I've been exposed to, with a great FTO, and with this department being awesome as it is, you know, exposed to great training so far. So yeah, just like you said, a great learning experience.
Any takeaways for the public? I mean, especially being that you have had firsthand experience falling into water, you know, even though the weather was nice today, freezing water. Anything you would tell people about just taking care of themselves and taking care of their kids around icy water this time of year?
Yeah, the best thing is to obviously don't test the water. Don't go onto the ice. Don't do anything like that. If you do fall in, being calm is the first thing. That's half the battle. Because if I were frantic like them, I would have been in the same situation, would have been the fourth victim. Yeah, you just got to keep a cool, calm head. If you do happen to get yourself out, you got to disperse your weight out evenly and just crawl slowly towards shore.
Did you happen to see him here? The two
No,
guys?
we were all separated, but
Okay.
his family did, said thank you, and his dad ended up trying to come in, but that was so back and forth with doctors.
Mm-hmm.
But
But-
they were very appreciative.
They just let you know that they were thankful, or did they actually get to tell you?
They didn't get to tell me in person, though, because we were so back and forth.
That's nice. I'm glad.